Hey, how's it going? I'm IlaGolden and welcome to Ila Reads. As soon as they got in, and out of earshot is still in May, Echo decided it was finally time to talk to her daughter about her current attitude problems. She started off by sending Synth into the living room to play, before leading her daughter into the kitchen for a little privacy. Have I done something to upset you? Her voice was firm and betrayed as few emotions as possible. Has Synth? No. Piccolo rolled her eyes and folded her arms. Then what's with this constant attitude I've been getting from you lately? Because if we haven't done anything to warrant it, that means you're just doing it because you don't like us, and that's hurtful. Piccolo shrugged and averted her gaze. Echo wasn't sure if she was doing that because she didn't have an explanation for her attitude, or because she was agreeing with Echo's reasons. Your Patch and I are both trying really hard to raise you as best we can, given the situation, Echo tried again. We love you, Piccolo. I love you, Piccolo. And it hurts me more than you could imagine every time you act in this selfish, stuck-up manner, especially towards your brother. It doesn't seem to bother him, she sobbed. That's because he's too young to understand. Too stupid, more like it. Piccolo! What? It's true. He's stupid for his age. All my friends with younger siblings agree with me. The only reason you and Patch don't see it is because you don't want to. You never see anything you don't want to. Patch doesn't exactly get a lot of time with us anymore, so of course he's not always going to notice. But what's your excuse? Work? You're always working. Even when you're here with us, your mind's more focused on work than it is on anything else. That's not true, Piccolo. When I'm home, my attention is here, where it should be, and you know it. Then why haven't you noticed how stupid Synth is? He's not stupid, Piccolo. Yes, he is. He doesn't know anything. It's so obvious you should just get him tested already. Piccolo, he's much too young to get accurate results from their testing. I don't want him labelled unnecessarily, and neither does your Patch. Miss Fairchild thinks he should be tested. Only because he's a little introverted and clings to Tree Man. Not because she thinks he's academically behind any of his classmates. Not by anything worth being concerned about, at any rate. So he can read and write like a 5-year-old. Big deal. He's still stupid, and he still doesn't know anything. It was pretty obvious she was going to be stubborn about this. He runs around so much at break time and lunchtime that even the other boys in his class don't want to play with him. Then the only thing he's interested in talking about is art, and nobody cares. If you try talking to him about anything else, he has no idea what you're on about, and he just stares at you with his moronic little blank face. He's stupid. He's stupid, and you haven't noticed because you care more about your work than you do about us. That's not true, Piccolo. Then why didn't you tell us you wanted to be an actor, huh? Didn't you care how we might feel about it? No, you were more concerned with dumping us at a clubhouse so you could follow your own dream. She was clearly getting emotional now. But why do you want to be on stage anyway? Being an actor is what normal Neath do, and you're not a normal Neath. You're not a normal anything. You're not even a normal Murmur, and I wish I was living with Patch and Cleo because at least then I could bring friends home for dinner without worrying what they think about you and Synth, all wondering if I'm like that too. Because how can I be normal if my family isn't? Piccolo! For a few long moments, Echo was too stunned to know what to say. Instead, she just stared at her daughter, trying to work out the best recourse. I'm sorry. Piccolo was the one to break the silence. I shouldn't have said that. Did you mean it? Is that how you really feel? In response, Piccolo just shrugged and shifted her gaze away. Pico, come here. She held her arms out towards her. Initially, she hesitated before shuffling forward and taking a seat on Echo's lap. Look, I know you don't have the most normal family situation, and I understand how difficult that can be. I also know what it feels like to be ashamed of those differences. She gently stroked her daughter's hair. I know you know the story of how and when I decided to give up on the conversion therapy, but I never told you about how I felt when I was about your age, and I was starting to realize for the first time just how different I was to my classmates. I hated it. All I wanted was to be able to walk like everyone else and not have to go through painful procedures all the time only to end up back where I started. At the time, I would have given anything to be what I thought was normal. And then I met your Patch's family for the first time, and I realized normality doesn't exist, that everybody has differences. Some of them are huge and obvious, others smaller and harder to see. But they are there for everybody, and we all have to come to terms with what makes us us, and what makes us different in our own time and in our own way. I also learned that a true friend doesn't care just how different you are or why, because a true friend knows those differences are what make you, you. And what if I need to live with Patch and Cleo for a while in order to be able to find that? Her voice was mute and small. I won't lie, Pico. That would make me very sad. But if it's really what you think will help you, then we'll discuss it with your Patch. I just want you to promise me you'll think about it first, hmm? I know this probably isn't the first time you've thought about it, she stroked her daughter's hair. But this is the first time I've heard you say it, and you said it in anger. So I want you to calm down and have a good night's sleep, and really think about it. And then, when you're ready, you can come and talk to me calmly about how you feel. And that doesn't have to be tomorrow, Pico. That could be in a week from now, or a month, or whenever you feel you're ready, okay? I don't want you making this decision in a rush and ending up just as unhappy because of it. Okay? Okay. Her voice remained mute. Do you want to help me get dinner ready? No, she shook her head. I think I want to go do my homework now. Okay, she smiled as her daughter got off her lap. I do love you, Piccolo. You know that, right? I know, Mama. I love you too. And with that, she left the room. For a few moments, Echo just stared after her, her heart feeling heavier than she ever thought possible. Sucking a deep breath in, she did her best not to cry and started getting their evening meal together. As she did, she felt a pair of eyes burning into her from behind. Fearing Synth had overheard some of their argument, she spun around to comfort him. It's okay. She stopped the second she realized no one was there. Discomfort moved through her as she glanced around for any sign of someone being in the kitchen with her. There was no one, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. With little else she could do, she did her best to shake off the feeling and get on with making dinner. It wasn't easy, and the harder she tried to ignore the feeling of being watched, the more certain she became that someone was there. Turning around again, she forced herself to examine her surroundings more closely. This time she noticed a distortion near the kitchen door. It was tall and almost man-shaped, and very similar to the one she'd seen when the sandbag had fallen. Swallowing hard, she tried to resist saying the one thought screaming its way through her head, but it was too hard. Tree man? As soon as she spoke, the distortion fled out into the hall. Wait! She did her best to chase after it, but by the time she'd reached the kitchen door, it was impossible to tell where it had gone. With little else she could do, she made her way back into the kitchen and forced herself to get on with dinner. Maybe auditioning for the next Heartbeat had been the worst decision she'd ever made, because from the moment she had, things had been. She wasn't sure exactly, but she did know she was going to use this as a sign she needed to talk to Nia about how Piccolo was feeling before her daughter made her decision. If part of Piccolo's problem was that she was feeling neglected, then she needed to show her both her parents were there for her, and telling Nia was the only way that was going to happen. Piccolo's words still had her feeling more than a little shaken the following day. She'd spent most of the morning feeling off-centered and distracted. Fortunately, they'd just been running through some of the later ensemble numbers, and she hadn't had to concentrate too much on what she was doing. But just because the wider cast hadn't spotted her inability to concentrate, didn't mean nobody had. Echo, darling, are you all right? Liz grabbed her almost as soon as their lunch break had begun. You've been a little off colour all morning. You're not coming down with anything, are you? No. Her voice was almost mute as she shook her head. Nothing like that. Piccolo and I just had an unpleasant conversation last night. Unpleasant how? Apparently my daughter is ashamed of me and her brother and would rather live with her Patch. I'm sure she doesn't mean it, Echo. Lilith waved a dismissive hand. Children will say pretty much anything when they're feeling hurt or angry. My twins can be particularly vicious when they want to be. I know, but I think she means it. I think that's how she really feels. I know she's been acting out a lot recently, and I know she's not exactly comfortable with the fact she's an Ashton two-tone, but I never thought even for a second the fact that I didn't think my own daughter could, despite her best efforts not to cry, Echo couldn't help but let out a sob. Instantly, Liz took hold of the handles of her chair and wheeled her into the privacy of one of the dressing rooms. Almost as soon as they entered, Echo found herself in tears. She couldn't help it. It felt as though a well of pain had been building inside of her and had suddenly burst. Like some kind of protective murmur figure, Lilith had pulled her into a hug and gently stroked her hair until she calmed down. Better, darling? No, Echo shook her head. I don't think I'm ever going to feel better about this, but I feel like I can keep going now. I think I've just been so numb since she told me yesterday, and even speaking to Nia about it after she'd gone to bed. I think I just wasn't processing any of it. But now I feel like like I've accepted how she feels and I need to find a way of helping her with those feelings. You really think little Pico meant it when she said she was ashamed of you? Yes, in more than one ways I think she did. I don't doubt that she loves me, but I think she doesn't know how to reconcile her feelings about everything. And that's something we both know I can relate to. Alonso was a monster no child should have to put up with. Liz's face puckered into a look of displeasure. Never compare yourself to him. I'm not. I'm just saying I can understand what it's like to have to deal with very conflicting emotions and trying to find some kind of middle ground within them. I can't force my daughter not to feel the way she's feeling, but I can help her accept that emotions aren't such a straightforward thing, and it's okay when they're not. You are always too wise for your age, darling. Much wiser than I was or probably will ever be. Now, what do you say to a little lunch before we have to get back to work? That sounds like a good idea to me. She half forced a smile. I'm not going to say I'm in the mood to eat, but I am hungry. Of course you are after how hard I worked you this morning, Lilith laughed. You stay here. I'll fetch yours for you. Give you a chance to freshen up that face of yours. Thanks, Lilith. I don't know what I would do without you. Live in a world without any light, of course, darling. She struck a dramatic pose. After all, we both know a world without Liz's triumph is a world without sunshine. It was Nia's day to have the kids, and travelling home from rehearsal that evening felt like rolling towards a death sentence. Everything in her hoped Piccolo was going to take a few more days at least to make some kind of decision, and that once she had, it would be to stay with her and Synth. Her household had already shrunk once. She really didn't want it to shrink again. Yet at the same time, she was preparing herself for just that. If Piccolo needed to spend some time living with her patch, then she would just have to accept that decision, no matter how painful it was. She arrived home to a house in complete and utter silence. Nia wouldn't drop the kids off for another couple of hours, which meant she had to endure not knowing for a little while longer. Not that she really wanted to know anyway, but at the same time, this was killing her, so she had to. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath in and tried to force all thoughts away. She needed to stop thinking about this. It really could be a while before Piccolo came to her with her decision, so she had to get used to the uncertainty and the waiting. To try and get her mind off everything, she set about making herself some dinner. She didn't really have much of an appetite, but having spent all day rehearsing, she was definitely hungry. It was an odd situation to be stuck in, not really wanting to eat, but your body begging you to anyway. And the fact it was the second time that day she'd experienced it just seemed to confirm one thing, and one thing only. Her daughter's words had devastated her, and she didn't know how to pick up the pieces again. The meal she made for herself was light and quick, figuring it'd be easier to get it down that way. Taking it over to the dinner table, she gave a heavy sigh as she tried her best not to focus on the empty chairs around her. At least that was the plan until she heard one of them scrape backwards. Looking up, she couldn't help but notice how far back from the table the chair now was, enough for someone to sit comfortably down in it. The problem was, she couldn't be sure if it had been that far back anyway, and she just imagined the noise because she was lonely, or... You know it's considered good manners to wait for an invitation before entering someone's home. She kept her voice soft, light, and almost joking, taking comfort in the noise even if she was only talking to herself. Then again, I'm guessing one or other of my children gave you that a long time ago. Right, Tree Man? Or do you prefer Wobbly Man? Are either of those actually your name, or are they just what my children call you? Do you actually have a name of your own for that matter? How does being imaginary work? For a moment she laughed at her own silliness, shook her head, and took a few more mouthfuls of her dinner. For some reason her imaginary companion made her feel a little better about things, and the first bites of food caused her appetite to come rushing back. Hey, you're an impartial bystander, right? She focused her gaze on the nothingness in the pushed-out chair. You've been watching my children for a long time now, so you would know if I was a bad murmur or not, right? So am I? Am I a bad murmur? Do I really focus more on my work than on my children? Have I neglected their emotional needs? I always thought I was doing my best to keep my work and my home life as separate as possible, just like my parents did. They managed to never make me feel neglected, at least as far as I remember. Then I look at Sunny and I wonder if maybe I've just kept all the good memories of my parents and forgotten all the times I felt the way Piccolo feels now. I thought I was being a good murmur like mine was. But what if I was wrong? What if actually I'm a bad murmur because I had a bad murmur? I hate thinking that way because I love her. I love both my parents so much, but we learn how to be a parent from our parents, don't we? And based on those experiences, we know what they got right and what they got wrong. But I don't remember them getting much wrong. But what if I was wrong? What if they were terrible parents for anyone but me? I just want my children to be happy. But what if that happiness means they can't be with me? Her marathon of questions was met with silence. Not that she was expecting her imaginary companion to respond, no matter how much her mind wanted him to be real right now. Maybe that's why she kept seeing wobbly images everywhere. Somewhere in her, she knew something wasn't quite right, and she needed an impartial bystander to tell her she was doing a good job, and in the process latched onto her son's imaginary friend. These thoughts began to join the others circling around her mind, and as they did, one other thought occurred to her. You know, Tree Man, for a long while now I've been wondering something. I know you can't really answer me, but I'm still just curious anyway. Are you... Are you the one I saw when I was a teenager? The one who relieved my pain that day in the forest? When Piccolo first drew you as Wobbly Man, I wondered if she'd been inspired by my story. And in my heart, I guess I've always wanted some kind of proof that really happened. So, if it is you, thank you. And if it's not, if you really are just a figment of my children's imagination, then thank you for that too. Sometimes everyone needs to know they're not alone. And at one time or another, you've helped both my children feel that. Now you've also done the same for me, so thank you. And please, no matter what, continue to watch over all of us. Enjoyed what you've heard so far? Please consider subscribing to find out when the next part's being released. Thanks for watching. See ya!